Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer, and today I'm gamesplaining Founders of Gloomhaven. I'm going to make the assumption that all of you have heard of Gloomhaven as it's sitting in that at the top of the Board Game Geek listings of hotness games and all that stuff. Founders of Gloomhaven lives 100 or a couple of hundred years before the events of the Gloomhaven game. Now, I'm going to say straight up front, I have not played Gloomhaven. So I don't know the names, I don't know the history or any of the stuff that goes into that game. I have avoided playing that game simply because of the campaign / legacy-ness of the game, the ongoingness of the game. I don't find that I'm playing with the same people, so there's no point in me trying to play one of those games. So I'm going to leave that aside. If you know Gloomhaven, this game probably makes a lot more sense to you. I am going to say straight from the outset, it's a Euro game. It is very much a, you've got 5 cards that you can play from your hand, and they will each do one action, and there's a point where you'll be able to pick all those cards back up. So there's a bit of that action selection-ness out of your hand. It's got a lot of the Euro device of I own this building, this thing, so I'm going to create other things that I can now use to build this other thing. But the big difference on this game is that even though it is a game where there's only one winner, you're competing against the other players at the table, you still need to work with them. And set up that way, very much set up that way from the outset. So you get your starting faction, and your starting faction has control over this type of good. And you also have a second product or secondary product. If you're in the 2-player game, which you'll watch the videos, you'll see I'm playing a 2-player game, they get a third product. If you're on a 2 or 3-player game, there are 2 products sitting on the side of the board that are owned by no one, and you can still get them, you can still bring them into the game, and you're going to need to bring them into the game in order to get to the end of the game. Because realistically, you need to be able to provide all of the products that are necessary. And there's a little board that shows you what's linked and what's not. There's this really mathy kind of, this is worth 7 points at the top end, but in order to build this, I'm going to have to pay this person over here 2 points, and that person over there 1 point. So I'm only going to get 4 points, and 3 points are going out. But it's working within that context, the game really works. What I found really difficult with this game is, number one, I just tend to name everything building, and there's no building. There's no building action. So I could be building roads, it could be building fences, things over fences, or over bridges over rivers, or it could be building the building. I've been told not to use the word building because it's too everything. Comes under building. So be really careful of that. There are words that are necessary, then they're actually on the cards, so it will help you out. It just means you need to actually read them and then take in, that's what they're talking about. The other thing that I found catches people out is the fact that Gloomhaven as a location is being built to not favour one particular group. So you're going to take on one of these worlds, one of these people types that go into Gloomhaven. But in order for you to build the Gloomhaven city, you're not allowed to build anything that you have built next to something else you have built. I think that I catch myself in the Gamesplaned that I have accidentally broken this rule, and I fix it, but it's something to be really aware of. You are not allowed to put your marker on top of a building that's next to or adjacent to another one of your markers. You have to have something in between them. In order to get from one of your buildings to another building where you want a marker to be, you have to have roads. You can't just go through other buildings. So having that kind of in mind as you're playing is really important. So you are going to be playing, giving points to other people for everything that you do, but everything you do should be working towards getting bigger points or put you in position to be able to get more points. The game finishes when you get to this higher level of building that requires resources from other buildings. And each other building that gives the resources to that particular building will gain points. Once 6 of these have been completed, and completed means that all of the resources have been provided to that building, all the resources that building needs have been provided, that is then a completed building. Once 6 of them are completed, that's the game. There's a couple of other little things with money and crystals or gems that get your points, but in essence, that is the game. So when we look at it, it's quite a very simple game. You've got cards in your hand, you play the card, you do what it says on the card as long as you can do it. So you might pay 4 money for a building, and then everyone else around the table gets to follow that action. So it's a similar action, but it's a little bit harder to do, or you don't get quite as good benefit from it. And then the play goes to the next player. And that's realistically the game. It's just playing these cards over your hand and doing what the card says. But the grind of the gears on, how do I make this happen? It's such a meaty game. Even though it's, in essence, it's actually quite simple. There's a really steep learning curve on this game, I find. The first time you play this game, you're going to have to deal with this whole thing of, I'm getting points, but I'm giving points to someone else. You're going to have to deal with the placement of roads to enable you to be able to build those other buildings. You're going to have to deal with the linking of territories together to make them happen. All this stuff is going to go into your playing that needs to be thought about, and we're not used to thinking about. I think that might be the issue with this game. We're not used to thinking about it. Now, when I say issue, I'm not saying this is a bad game. This is by no stretch of the imagination a bad game. This is an extraordinarily good game. I really enjoy playing it. I have played this, I've only played this once with other people. I've been playing this against myself a couple of other times. That's not listed on my Board Game Geek playthroughs because I just out of habit don't do that. I don't link in, I've played this game so many times, when I've only played it this many times, simply because I've played against myself. But I've played this thing through a few times against myself to really get my head through the mechanisms of the game and how the game actually runs. So I'm hoping that my videos will actually explain to you the rules really well. That's my hope. There's so much going on that there's every possibility that I may have missed something. If I have missed a ruling or I've misspoken about a ruling, please comment below. Comment saying this at this time you said this and this is what it should be. That's absolutely fine. I'm really happy to hear that stuff because you know what? It means I'll play better as well. But I'm pretty sure I've got these rules right now with the number of playthroughs that I've done. There might be a couple of small things that I have ignored or neglected within the rule set, and look, feel free to comment about them, but if I've neglected them, it's because I haven't seen them or I haven't come up against them before, or there's things that I haven't actually needed. That's realistically it with Founders of Gloomhaven. I hope that some of you have, well, I know that a lot of you have backed this game. I hope that you're able to pick up this game in shops and that this will help you get Founders of Gloomhaven to the table. If you have any comments or suggestions, please write them below. If you have any games that you wish to be gamesplaying, please shoot me an email at thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at thegamesplainer to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.